There's a specific moment where the avoidant finally sees your value, finally understands what they lost. But this recognition comes too late because you're not the same person anymore. You've changed through the pain of the relationship ending, through the growth that comes from walking away. The avoidant is finally ready to value who you were, but who you were isn't who you are now. Here's what happens when avoidants finally see your value, but you're no longer the person they lost. You're no longer willing to accommodate their patterns. The first and most fundamental way you've changed is that you're no longer willing to accommodate avoidant patterns. The person they lost would bend themselves around the avoidant's need for space, would accept breadcrumbs, would wait patiently for the avoidant to be ready for more. But the person you are now has learned that accommodation without reciprocation is self-abandonment. You're not going to shrink your needs again to fit their limitations. This change means that even if the avoidant sees your value and wants you back, they can't have the dynamic they're imagining. They're picturing the patient, understanding version of you who gave them endless chances and space. But that person was depleted by constantly accommodating without getting needs met. The you that exists now requires actual partnership, consistent presence, and emotional availability. You're not interested in managing someone else's wounds while neglecting your own well-being. The shift in your willingness to accommodate also means you have boundaries the old you didn't have. You know what you will and won't accept. You know when to walk away. You know your worth isn't determined by someone else's capacity to value you. These boundaries protect you, but they also make you incompatible with an avoidant who hasn't done deep work, because avoidants need accommodating partners to sustain their patterns. The avoidant recognizing your value now doesn't change this fundamental incompatibility. They might see that you were amazing, that you offered something rare, that they made a mistake letting you go. But seeing your value doesn't mean they're capable of meeting the standards the new you requires. You've evolved past accepting what they're able to offer. You've healed the wounds they used to trigger. The second major change is that you've done work to heal the wounds the avoidant used to trigger. The person they lost was wounded in ways that made you vulnerable to their hot and cold patterns, to their withdrawal and return cycles, to their inconsistency. But you've healed those wounds through therapy, self-work, and time. The hooks the avoidance behavior used to catch in you no longer exist. This healing means their patterns don't have the same effect on you they used to. When they pull away, you don't panic and chase. When they breadcrumb, you don't respond with gratitude for scraps. When they're inconsistent, you don't try harder to earn consistency. The healing has given you a different nervous system response to avoidant behavior, one that prioritizes your well-being over maintaining connection at any cost. The healed wounds also mean you're not looking to the avoidant to fix anything in you. The old you might have thought if they just loved you properly, if they just showed up consistently, if they just chose you, then you'd feel whole. But the new you knows wholeness comes from within. You don't need the avoidance validation or love to feel valuable. This self-sufficiency is attractive, but it also means you're no longer available to play the role you played before. The avoidant seeing your value now might trigger a desire to try again, but the person they'd be trying with has fundamentally different wiring than the person they lost. You're not seeking completion through them. You're complete already, and anything you engage in relationally has to add to that completeness rather than filling a void. You've built a life that doesn't include waiting for them. The third significant change is that you've built a full, rich life that doesn't include space for waiting around, hoping an avoidant will get their act together. The person they lost had their life somewhat on hold, organized around the possibility of the relationship working. But you've moved forward. You've invested in friendships, hobbies, career, personal growth, maybe new relationships. Your life is full in ways it wasn't when you were with them. This full life means you're not sitting around available for the avoidant to slot back into whenever they're ready. You have commitments, priorities, and a rhythm that doesn't include them. Even if they want you back, even if they're finally ready to try properly, your life has moved on and there may not be room for them anymore. the life you've built also reflects your values and needs in ways the relationship didn't. You're surrounding yourself with people who show up consistently, who value you, who meet you with the energy you bring. You're creating circumstances that support your well-being rather than compromising it. This environment you've created isn't compatible with the dynamic you had with the avoidant. The avoidant's recognition of your value doesn't account for the fact that your whole life context has changed. They might be ready for you, but you're not waiting for them to be ready. You're living fully now, and any relationship would have to integrate with that full life rather than you dropping everything to accommodate their timeline. You see them clearly now, not through hope or potential. The fourth major shift is that you see the avoidant clearly now. You're not looking at them through the lens of their potential or hoping they'll change. You see exactly who they are, what they're capable of, and what their limitations are. This clarity is protective because it prevents you from being seduced by their recognition of your value into thinking things could be different. The clear seeing includes recognizing their patterns for what they are, deeply ingrained defensive strategies that won't change without intensive therapeutic work. You're not making excuses for them anymore. You're not telling yourself they're just scared or just need more time. You see that their patterns serve them in some way, that they choose those patterns over vulnerability with you, and that awareness keeps you from falling back into old dynamics. This clarity also means you can appreciate what was good about them without being blind to what didn't work. You can acknowledge the connection was real, the love was there, and the relationship also wasn't sustainable because of their limitations. You hold both truths simultaneously, which prevents you from romanticizing what you had or what could be. The avoidant, seeing your value now, doesn't change what you see when you look at them. You still see the patterns, the limitations, the ways they couldn't show up. Their delayed recognition of you doesn't make them suddenly capable of relationship with you. You're not confused about who they are anymore, and that clarity protects you from hope that isn't based in reality. You're not interested in being their lesson or their growth opportunity. The fifth change is that you're no longer willing to be the person the avoidant learns from. You've learned through painful experience that some avoidants only grow after they lose someone, that your leaving might be what motivates their therapeutic work, that they might become capable with the next person of what they couldn't do with you. And you've made peace with the unfairness of that, but you're also clear that you're not interested in being their trial run. This shift means that even if the avoidant has done work, even if losing you catalyzed growth, even if they're genuinely different now, you're not obligated to give them another chance to prove it. Someone else can benefit from the lessons your pain taught them. You're not available to test whether their changes are real or to risk being hurt again by someone who's hurt you before. The unwillingness to be their lesson also includes refusing to educate them on how to love you better. The old you might have explicitly told them what you needed, communicated your hurt, tried to help them understand. But the new you knows that if someone needs a manual to treat you well, they're not your person. You're looking for someone who naturally shows up the way you need, not someone you have to train to meet basic relationship requirements. The avoidance recognition of your value, even if it comes with changed behavior, doesn't obligate you to accept them back into your life. You've already paid the cost of their learning. You don't have to give them the benefit of what they've learned from losing you. You trust yourself now in ways you didn't before. The sixth fundamental shift is that you trust yourself now. You trust your instincts about when something isn't right. You trust your assessment of when someone can't give you what you need. You trust your decision to walk away from situations that hurt you. This self-trust is the foundation of your transformation, and it makes you someone fundamentally different from who the avoidant lost. The self-trust means you won't second-guess yourself into giving them another chance if your gut says no. The old you might have overridden your instincts because you wanted to believe things could work, but the new you honors what you sense and feel. If seeing the avoidant again triggers any warning signals, you trust those signals rather than talking yourself into ignoring them. This trust also includes trusting that you can survive loss. The old you was terrified of losing the relationship, which gave the avoidant enormous power. But you've survived losing them. You've proven to yourself that you're okay, that you can build a good life alone, that their leaving wasn't the catastrophe you feared. This knowledge removes the fear that used to make you accept less than you deserve. The avoidant, seeing your value now, meets a version of you who trusts yourself enough to not need their validation. You know your value independent of whether they see it. This self-trust makes you attractive but also unavailable in the old way, because you're not seeking their approval or hoping they'll finally recognize you. You already recognize yourself. What the avoidant is actually seeing when they see your value now. When the avoidant finally sees your value, what they're actually seeing is who you were in relation to them. They're recognizing your patience, your understanding, your capacity to love their defended self. They're seeing the accommodation you offered, the chances you gave, the ways you made relationship possible, despite their patterns. But this person they're now appreciating is gone, transformed by the very experience of being undervalued by them. The avoidant is also seeing your value through the lens of what they've lost, which makes it seem more valuable than they found it when they had it. Loss creates clarity and intensifies perceived value. But this clarity is based on absence, not on capacity to actually engage differently with you. They see what they lost, but not necessarily how to be different, which means their recognition doesn't translate to changed behavior. What they're not seeing is who you've become. They don't see the boundaries, the self-trust, the unwillingness to accommodate, the clear sight, the full life. They're nostalgic for who you were, which means they want back a version of you that no longer exists. This fundamental misunderstanding means that even their accurate recognition of your past value is irrelevant to your present reality. Why their timing reveals they haven't actually changed. The fact that the avoidant is seeing your value now after you've left and changed, rather than while you were available and loving them, reveals they haven't actually changed in the ways that matter. If they'd done genuine work on their patterns, they would have been able to see and appreciate you while you were there. The fact that they can only see you clearly in absence means they're still operating from the same defended place. Real growth would mean being able to value someone while close to them, being able to appreciate what they offer while still in relationship with them. But the avoidant who only sees your value after loss is still in the pattern of only wanting what they can't have, only valuing what's gone. This isn't growth. It's the same avoidant pattern playing out in a different context. The timing also reveals the avoidant is responding to their own discomfort rather than genuine recognition of you. They feel the loss, the loneliness, the consequences of their patterns. They're uncomfortable, and they're associating you with relief from that discomfort. But that's not the same as valuing you for who you are. It's valuing what you provided for them, which is a fundamentally selfish orientation that hasn't changed. Why you being different now protects you. The fact that you're not the same person anymore is your greatest protection against falling back into a dynamic that didn't serve you. The old you was compatible with their patterns in painful ways, but the new you isn't. Even if the avoidant wants you back, even if they see your value, the person they want back doesn't exist anymore, and the person you are now won't accept what they're able to offer. This protection is crucial because avoidant recognition of your value can be seductive. It's tempting to think they're finally seeing you means things could work now, but them seeing you doesn't mean they can be with you differently. And you being fundamentally changed means you won't accept being with them the same way. The incompatibility that exists now is different, but just as real as the incompatibility that ended things before. Your changes also mean you're no longer vulnerable to the specific ways the avoidant used to hurt you. You won't wait endlessly. You won't accept breadcrumbs. You won't make yourself small. The ways they failed you before won't work on who you are now because you've learned those lessons and built immunity to those specific pains. You're protected by your own evolution in ways you weren't protected before. The grief of being valued too late. There's a unique grief that comes with the avoidant finally seeing your value when you're no longer the person they're seeing. Part of you wanted this recognition while you were together, and now they do, but it's too late, because you've moved past needing that validation from them. The grief includes mourning what could have been if they'd seen your value in time. But they didn't, and you changed as a result. And now their recognition is meaningless, because it can't change what happened, or who you've become. This grief is complicated because it's mixed with satisfaction. Part of you is glad they finally see what they lost, but another part is sad that the timing worked out this way, that recognition came too late to matter. How to respond if they reach out after recognizing your value. If the avoidant reaches out after finally seeing your value, you have options. You can ignore it entirely. You can respond briefly but make clear you've moved on. You can engage to assess if genuine change has occurred, though this carries risk. Whatever you choose should be based on what serves your well-being, not on what the avoidant needs. Their recognition doesn't create obligation. You don't owe them anything just because they finally understand what they lost. If you do engage, be very clear about what would need to be different. Not just them saying they see your value now, but concrete evidence of changed capacity. Have they been in therapy? Can they articulate what was wrong and what they'd do differently? The power of being different from who they lost. There's profound power in being fundamentally different from the person the avoidant lost. It means you've grown through the pain rather than being stuck in it. It means the experience transformed you rather than just hurting you. This transformation also means you're no longer defined by the relationship or its ending. The new you is defined by who you've become through healing. Someone who knows their worth, trusts themselves, maintains boundaries. The power also includes knowing that you're better off now than you were with them. Not because of circumstances necessarily, but because of who you are now. You're more yourself. You're more grounded. You're more certain of what you need. Why you don't owe them a chance to love the new you. You don't owe the avoidant an opportunity to love the new version of you just because they finally appreciate the old version. Some avoidants, once they recognize what they lost, want access to who you've become. But your evolution isn't for them. It's for you. The new you exists because the old dynamic ended. The avoidant doesn't get to benefit from growth that their poor treatment catalyzed. Someone else might get to love the new you, but that someone should probably be someone who didn't require you to break yourself down to build yourself back up. You also don't owe them a chance because changed behavior has to be demonstrated over time, not just claimed. Words are easy. Sustained changed behavior is hard. You're not obligated to give them the opportunity to prove themselves when their track record with you is failure. What this dynamic teaches about timing in relationships, this entire dynamic of avoidance seeing your value after you've changed, teaches important lessons about timing in relationships. Love alone isn't enough if the timing isn't right. Connection alone isn't enough if one person can't show up properly. The relationship you could have had if the avoidant had seen your value in time is irrelevant, because they didn't, and by the time they do, you're different and the possibility no longer exists. The timing lesson also includes recognizing that people can grow at different paces, and sometimes those paces make relationship impossible, even if both people eventually get to healthier places. The avoidant might do work and grow eventually. You've done work and grown already, but those growth trajectories happen separately, creating people who aren't compatible even if they both become healthier versions of themselves. This also teaches that you can't wait for someone to be ready for you. You have to live your life, do your growth, become who you're meant to be on your own timeline. If someone can't value you while you're available and willing, you can't put your life on hold hoping they'll eventually develop capacity. By the time they do, you'll be different and the window will have closed. The most important timing lesson is that growth born from loss often comes too late to salvage what was lost. The avoidant might become capable of relationship through losing you, but that capacity develops after you're gone and have moved on. The growth is real, but the timing makes it irrelevant to you. This is just how it works sometimes, and accepting that prevents you from being pulled backward by someone's delayed evolution. Celebrating who you've become instead of mourning the timing. Rather than focusing on the tragedy of the avoidant seeing your value too late, celebrate who you've become through the journey of leaving and healing. You're not the person who would accept less than you deserve anymore. You're not the person who waited for someone to be ready. You're not the person who made yourself small for someone else's comfort. The transformation is worth celebrating even if the timing of their recognition is painful. The celebration also includes honoring your own growth journey. You did hard things. You left when it was painful to leave. You worked on your wounds. You built a new life. You became someone stronger and more whole. These achievements are yours, and they matter more than whether the avoidant eventually understands what they lost. Celebrating also means not diminishing your growth by entertaining the idea of going backward. You worked too hard to become who you are to risk it by returning to someone who couldn't value the previous version of you. Your evolution deserves protection, and part of that protection is refusing to expose yourself to people who have proven they can't treat you right. Most importantly, celebrate that they're finally seeing your value doesn't affect you the way it would have before. The old you would have been devastated that they saw your value too late, but the new you can observe their recognition with detachment, knowing it doesn't change anything about your life or your choices. This detachment is evidence of your healing and deserves to be celebrated as the victory it is.